Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Style Masterclass Podcast. I have a very special guest with me today. She looks incredible. So if you're listening to this on the audio version, I want you to head over to YouTube because the color combination she's wearing is like bright red with this beautiful turquoise. And then you have to see her skull earrings. Like you have to just go see. So if you're listening audio, you have to come check us out because she's so cute. I'm going to let her introduce herself and then we're going to talk a little bit about Style Masterclass because my guest did go through Style Masterclass and the transformation she underwent, but I also want you to hear about what she's doing now as an entrepreneur because it's super juicy and she's using one of my favorite words and I'm giving you a lot of preamble, so I'm going to let her take it away. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nicolassa Galvez. I founded Chingona Coach, and it's coaching badass women whose edges have been dulled over the years, mostly at work, but in life too.
And okay, so chingona, how do you define that for people who don't know what that word is?
In Spanish, it's badass female, badass chica, but I define it as a badass chica who has big dreams and leans into being too much and doesn't usually do well in traditional workplaces or doesn't do well as traditionally defined of how to be successful in workplaces.
And okay, so this word, and I'm going to just spell it out for y'all who have no idea what we're saying, chingona. And it's funny because this word used as a term of endearment oftentimes. It's not a bad word. I think sometimes people who don't know the idiomatic expression of it think it's a bad word. It's not a bad word at all. Actually, it's used as a term of endearment. So
Yeah,
sometimes when you do something that's like feisty or sassy when you're younger, you'll get called a chingona. Yeah. So
yeah, because there's comrades. I can't even say that word, and cabron, and yeah. So there was a couple different words we used, but chingona was always the one that I attached to because it had that rebellious spirit to it. Yeah. Like the little I'm gonna do something a little bit different. I'm not way out there. I'm gonna do like the little sneaky rebellious thing.
So I'm curious, do you think someone is like born a chingona or do you think like it's a skill that could be taught or developed?
It's definitely something that could be, I think some people are born with it, but it is. And maybe like when we're all, little girls or little people, I think we do have that like curious and rebellious nature when we're trying to kind of like test our boundaries or explore what we like and don't like. And it's taken out of all of us. We have to like be quiet in class or wear certain things or behave a certain way or talk a certain way to authority. So we slowly learn like we can't be that little rascal. So I do think that we all kind of naturally have that chingona spirit.
Yeah. And then you mentioned that our edges get dulled over time. So tell me a little bit more about what you mean by that.
So at work, I'm 44. So I've been in workplaces since I was probably 16. You can't be rambunctious at work unless you're like, there's a certain, charming, rambunctious personality, but you can't be rebellious. You can't like ask too many questions. You have to speak formally. You have to show up formally. You can't break rules. Everything's really structured, or you have to be a certain kind of way in order to break rules. You can't just kind of go in and be curious or not fit the standard definition of success. And when you don't fit that standard definition of success, it becomes a lot more difficult. And I always grappled with not enjoying the standard protocols, but feeling like if I were to be successful or to be what I wanted to, or to, to make my dent in the world, I had to follow those rules. So the conversation in my head was always, why can't I do that? Why can't I figure it out? Like, oh my gosh, I spoke up again, or I got too loud at the last meeting, or I was too opinionated and I offended somebody. So it was just always beating myself up for not meeting that standard. And yes, so through coaching, it was getting to the point where I can make a choice about how I wanted to be. And not necessarily, I have like this certain way of being, but I realized it wasn't wrong. And, that might be my ADHD. That might be how I grew up, my culture. I was like, okay, this isn't wrong. This doesn't necessarily work in standard workplaces, but that's because, this world was created by neurotypicals and I'm neurodivergent. And on top of that, I have all this rebellious nature. And so that was really a big lift for me, was realizing I'm not bad. It just doesn't always work in traditional workplaces.
Yeah. And I think too, like we bring all of our identities to our workplace, right? So if someone who's neurodivergent or neurospicy, however you like to term yourself, right? Like you're neurodivergent, you're also Latina, you're also a woman, like, and you have like Chingona energy and like with that sort of rebellious spirit, like you're bringing all of that to the workplace. And I know so many of my clients, and so many of you are listening, you probably identify with a number of those traits that I just put like listed right now. A lot of you are like me, probably. And I think there's that rumination that happens after conversations at work.
Yeah.
It's so paralyzing later. Like you're running through everything that was said in detail. I know because I do this too. Like, how do you help women with that particular thing? Because I know it comes up all the time for your clients. It totally comes up for mine. Like, what are some of the things that you would tell someone if they over ruminate after every single conversation?
Well, first getting to what was said, what they think about what was said, and then was that actually wrong? And then I usually don't debate them on whether or not it was wrong. Like maybe it was wrong to say that as far as typical workplaces, but then what do they want to do with that? And do they want to, I had to get to the place where it was like, I want to say the thing and I'm going to have to pay the price. And I'm going to work on getting okay paying that price. And sometimes the price isn't as bad as I, think about it in my head forever, but just having, I would have something happen at work and then spiral forever. And so working with my clients who are, for a couple sessions about this one thing, but then once they realize like, oh, I'm not wrong, it's just what I did or who I am, for some reason that just takes off like days and days of the spiraling. It's like, maybe we spend that much time beating ourselves up that we don't even get to what we said and what we think about it. We're just like, we're wrong. Why did we say that again? Why do we always do that? And if you just take out days of that rumination, and then you get like, oh, okay, I said this thing, maybe I don't want to say it next time, or maybe I want to say that every time, but, I might not get the promotion, or that was one of the reasons I started my coaching business, is so I had this place to put all of my passion and my hope, and like I can be outside of the box, and maybe I have to constrain myself a little bit more at work. But if I have this place where I can put all my dreams and where I can explore my voice, then the balance is there and I don't feel so suffocated at work.
Yeah. And I love the idea of like centering on a dream and like giving space for you to like, I love to talk about taking up space with your body, but also your voice and your ideas. And I love that that's also an integral part of your coaching. So tell me a little bit how you weave in the dream part of the process.
Working with my clients to talk to them about like what they dreamt about being when they were a little girl. I think we forget that, even having some of my clients print out a picture of them being a little spicy little girl and putting that up and talking to her and figuring out what those dreams were. And maybe the dreams look differently, but really embracing that part of us that gets shelved pretty quickly, because work can be really discouraging for a lot of folks, because if you have that passion, you have that intelligence, you're clever, it just doesn't always fit into that prototype of what success and who gets promotions. And if you're not very good at playing the game, especially if you're neurodivergent, masking is really draining. You don't read body cues. You sometimes burst out with a statement. And, even if you're not neurodivergent, you can also do all these things. But working with clients that just acknowledging and tapping into their dreams and seeing if there is a place outside of work that they can really feed those dreams and spend time with those dreams. And maybe, the dream will blend into their workplace once they figure it out on their own, or maybe it won't, and they'll have an outlet outside of work to be the full expression of themselves.
Yeah. I love the idea of taking like the picture like of yourself and what did you want to be when you were little. So I'm actually going to ask you that. What did you want to be when you were a little girl?
I wanted to be the first female Supreme Court Chief Justice.
Gangster. Oh my gosh. I love it so much. I love
because we already had like the first female Supreme Court Justice. I'm like, okay, well, I'll be the first female Chief Justice.
Yeah, right up the ante. I love it. Yeah. I love it. That is so fun. I wanted to be an ophthalmologist, which is really funny. Because it's so far removed from what I do now. And I learned all the parts of the eye when I was younger. Like I was super into learning the parts of the eye.
You wear glasses when you were younger?
Yeah, I wore glasses when I was younger. I've been wearing glasses since I was 4. So I was like super into this idea. And then somewhere along the way, I realized I'd have to touch eyeballs. And I was like, I'm out. Yeah. I'm out. Like, I'm good. Yeah. That sounds terrible.
That's done. Cross off the list.
Yeah. What would you say to your little kid self about what you do now?
She wanted to be a Chief Justice because she wanted to create more places where right things didn't go wrong. And that was so tough for me at work, being so excited and talking with so many of my clients who really love work or love what they do and want to be excellent and want to be great, and then just can't find that way or that balance or that culture to do that. And it just plummets so quickly. So you have all the best intentions, you feel really good about something, and then it turns out to be really wrong. And not even like something awful happens as far as like, workplace lawsuits, just, like the tension or microaggressions or just, even if it doesn't involve any prejudices, it's really, really hurtful to not feel seen for your excellence or your unique contribution. So my coaching business has continued, the little girl's dream in me, where I want to create more spaces where right things don't go wrong for women in the workplace.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a cool mission, right? Like that's like was the heart of what she was desiring and like bringing that forward. And for all of you listening, I want you to just do that same exercise. Think about like, what did little you want or desire? And then how are you actually fulfilling that mission in different ways? And if you feel like you're not, then how do you get back to that original little inkling or desire from when you were a little kid? Oh, I love that.
Yeah, because I totally don't want to be a Chief Supreme Court Justice anymore. But there was something about that dream that, that I can still have.
Yeah, that's very cool. I love that. So tell me about what you're up to these days, all the things, fill me in.
So I'm still working from home, but I'm also now going into the office a few days of work. So my coaching practice is for all women or all folks socialized as women, but because of my community, I tend to coach a lot of folks in the nonprofit sector. And I've gone back and forth between nonprofits and marketing. And now I'm back in a nonprofit. And the interesting thing is I haven't told anybody because usually I do this big hurrah and look, I got this job and, look at this mission and, let's connect about my work. And I'm kind of keeping it under wraps. Like I'm keeping it as a part of my identity that I don't share yet. And not because I'm ashamed or anything, but I want to explore what that place is and not have my identity, my workplace identity so connected to my community connections. And I usually do that right away. And so this has been interesting to just have a job, which I, enjoy so far. I mean, it's only been 3 weeks, but not connected to my community. I live in Long Beach, California, and we're 500,000 people, but we're kind of a small town. And so,
Interesting.
things
Okay.
travel. And so I'm really connected, to all they're like my neighbors. And so, you say something and then this person knows about it and this person. So to not tell people, and a couple of people have asked me, where am I working? Because I did do a post about working in my coaching business, but I was like, I just don't want to tell anybody where I work right now.
Yeah. And you don't have to, but I love this idea because I think this happens a lot in my community. I notice like the idea that you have to make grand pronouncements about things. Like if I have a goal, I have to make a grand pronouncement. If I get a new job, I have to make a grand pronouncement, and I have to bring everybody into this new idea or this new goal of mine or this new thing I'm trying on, versus like getting to a place where you're like, and this could just be for me.
Yeah.
That's so powerful. And it's so uncomfortable too if you're so used to being the grand pronouncer who brings everyone along for the ride and be like, and maybe this time it's just for me.
It's just for me. And even like the title, it's grant writing and it was grants manager. And last time I had a manager title, I advocated for the director title. But this time I was like, I just took it because I was like, my trajectory is not rooted only in this employment. Like maybe, down the road, whatever titles even mean anymore. But I, had this thing where I had to take these steps and reach this pinnacle and, in my career and get these titles and slowly move up the ladder. And this time I was just like, no, I just want to do a good job and enjoy it. And I don't care what the title is. And that been really interesting for me because, I'm not seeing my future success necessarily in my job. I'm, keeping that hope and that passion and that energy for my coaching business. That's where my path to success is. And not that I can't be successful in my, 9 to 5, but that's not what's going to define my success.
And because I've had the pleasure of coaching you for a while, like I've got to see this identity shift in you.
Yeah.
Where some of the earlier calls that I've seen you on, it was like work and like your other job that you had, it was like, and then you could see like a shift in you. And it was like, oh no, it's about me. And then how I want to show up and what do I want to do? What do I want to create? And it's just been so cool to see that identity shift transformation in you over time. That has been like very cool as your coach to kind of see that develop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm so happy that you've seen, for like 4 years, the different, I went from bosses being evil, being coached on that to like now being a boss. And, what does that look like? But I was like, oh, bosses are human. And, let me think about the structure and the hierarchy that happens in workplace and let me critique that. But taking bosses out of like that paradigm and just be like, oh, they're human and they're facing all this tension. And, I kept saying, I never want to be a boss. That's a really hard job. Like, from thinking they're evil. Yeah. To being like, oh, that's really hard. I don't want to do that, to now being one and navigating what's that going to look like and how do I bring coaching into that supervision role.
Yeah. So part of what we worked on too, I mean, obviously I like coached on a myriad of things, but one of the things we did work on was your style. And it was in the height of the pandemic when you were working from home, and now you're going out in the world a little bit more again. So like, tell me what, as your identity shifted, as you coached on certain things, how did that translate in terms of style transition and a style shift, so to speak?
Yeah. So I was, used to run an art center. And so I wouldn't have said that before your style masterclass, but I do have a really distinct style. I kept thinking like, oh, well, this is like, I need to get it professional and then I'll have a style. So I ran the art center. I had a really distinct look, and then I started working from home even before the pandemic. And there was a lot of like heartbreak in a job that had happened. So yeah, my attire reflected that heartbreak. And so I was working from home, and I still have the pictures that we took every day. They pop because it has like a photo album on my photo. And it
Oh,
was just
okay. So you
like,
get the little like this day,
yeah, and it's
blah
just
blah
like,
blah.
whoa, there I am. Um, but then I also started to appreciate my body just as it is, in the sense like, oh, wearing a t-shirt and no bra and shorts because it's hot. That's not bad. That's just what I wear because I don't always like to wear a bra and it's hot. So I'm wearing shorts, and I'm wearing socks because my feet get cold when it's hot for some reason. So learning in the master class what outside of the house fashion looks like and what inside of the house fashion looks like, and that there's a gray area. So for me, it was either like no bra and a t-shirt, or like the full hour and a half when go to a gala. And I was like, well, I don't want to do that every day, so I'm never gonna do anything but put my hair in a bun. And so with you, exploring the gray area has been really fun. In for reels, putting on blackout blue light glasses
Yeah.
and a scarf, and like that's enough.
Boom.
Or like, oh, I have something in 8 minutes, and I put a little like lip color and like matte on and mascara, and that's it. And like maybe I have a couple shirts that because only Zoom shows a certain thing, and that's okay. And so
Yeah.
it was just really weird that I didn't know before your class. I mean, I think also ADHD is a little bit like this, that we're very like black or white thinking. But I had the opportunity to explore the gray area, where before I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm not even going to spend 45 minutes. Or, a messy bun. There's, a messy bun just to get it done. And then there's a messy bun that looks good. I mean, they both look good, but there's, one that's more clean, and then there's one
The
that's kind of
intention
loose.
behind it
Yeah.
makes a difference. Yeah.
And so that's been really fun, is what is like one or two things I want to do today for Zoom, or what is something I don't want to do.
I love it. And that's something we teach inside. So for any of you who are like, I don't want to spend an hour and a half, I don't want to spend 45 minutes. Like, we talk about minimum baselines, and we talk about like the 100% getting ready routine, and then the 50% one, and then the 25% one. And what does the 10% one look like? Because real life, y'all, right? So we're dressing women for real life, for their real Zoom life, for galas sometimes, but also if you want to be comfortable braless at home, finding you things that actually are nice. Because I think one of the things we shop for was like t-shirts and shorts for when you're at home. So it can be all of it, because we're dressing the real you, not the fantasy version of you who's always perfect.
Oh, and like how soft, like I didn't know, because like I would wear t-shirts that I got from like concerts or, nonprofit events. And you introduced me to a couple places, and, I didn't spend that much because, there's the whole money thing, but I found all these like amazingly soft clothes. And I'm like, what is this softness? This is so amazing. And, I shopped in like the sale section. But I didn't know like things could be that soft. And so it was so nice. And I totally wear them, for work meetings and stuff, because it's like a pajama or loungewear that's like suit and pants. And just having something so soft to put on. Or I have my day pajamas and then my sleeping pajamas. And I like to change.
That's what's up, right? Like, why not? And for my neurodiverse peeps, I did a podcast episode a few weeks ago talking about style and sensory issues. It's real. This is a real thing. So finding something that's actually soft, if you have any type of sensory issues, like, it's your whole body, it breathes a sigh of relief. I don't know if you've experienced this, but like, oh
yeah.
And you just want to like touch the t-shirt off, like, oh, it's so soft. Like, that could be, you could have that, my friends, especially if you are just walking around super uncomfortable and itchy all damn day.
Oh, the itchy. And the sensory thing too is I like tight things. But before your class and, taking those pictures every day and seeing my stomach, I didn't often wear tight things because my stomach. So I would wear loose things, but I like the way tight things feel. Like they just feel like they kind of hug me more. And now, like I'm still trying to get comfortable with tight things, but I can wear them. And before I would just not, in public, I could wear something that's tight. And before I'd be like, no, that is crazy. You are not allowed to wear anything tight.
And that's how you actually are more comfortable, right? Like that's the funny thing, is like depriving ourselves of the pleasure of wearing things that we actually feel good in. And then we can manage our thoughts about them, but at least give our body a break of feeling physically comfortable in our own clothing. The emotional stuff is going to be a work in progress. Absolutely.
Ongoing. Yeah. Forever.
So good. Well, I want the people to come find you. And I've already said you have to come look at her, of course. But where can people come find you, enter into your world, find out more about Chingona coaching and how to spend time with you?
I would love to have you come visit my website, chingona.coach. So it's not like .com, it's actually a .coach URL. And I have a lot of content on there about what you're feeling at work, not necessarily just blog, just on the homepage about like what you're going through and if you relate. And I also have a venting box on there. I know so many times I would go to the bathroom at work and call my partner or text somebody and be like, oh my God, this thing happened, and just have like this total freak out. And so I have that place on my website where you can just lay it all out, like what happened. And I will get back to you. I get back to all of those vents.
That's an amazing public service. Thank you for that, because I know that's so needed. If we could just have a place where you'd be like, and this happened, hey, here's some crazy shit that went down. Yes, so good. So go check out the venting box. We're going to put a link in the show notes for everything, so you can go check her out. And if any of you are interested in Style Masterclass, we have an opening starting September 27th. So you want to stay tuned for when we open those doors, because that is the day of our welcome call. So it'll be the very last day you can join. The next round is September 27th. And of course, we'll leave some information in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on today. It's a pleasure chatting with you and talking about all the little wisdom nuggets that we've had along the way. Is there anything you'd like anyone to know before we sign off?
Just do the masterclass, because there's so much gray area. Like it's if you want to go to 100, you can also go to 100, but the gift to me was all the steps in between and like the minimum baseline, and then get some Chingona fire with me and let's tackle your workplace stress.
Let's get it, y'all. Let's get it. Okay. We are signing out. Thank you for listening today. We are